ELMSHAVEN, LNG White's residence. Yeah. This is the house of Ellen White. And I think 2 years ago, sa palibot nangasunog like wildfire. Those trees, nangasunog na siya. And somewhere there, look, sunog na siya tanan diha. Sa unahan. Except diri sa palibot sa house ni Ellen G. White. Amazing, isn't it? Grabe ang milagro, excuse me. Panalipdan jud sa Ginoo. Amazing yun. Goosebumps. We're here right now at the house of Ellen G. White. Somewhere here in Napa Valley. It's well preserved. Look, nice.
My name is Pastor Castañon. I'll be your tour guide today. How many of you are here for the first time? Let me see your hands. Okay. The rest of you have been here before? Well, how long ago?
Some time ago. We just come to see what's open because sometimes we come and not everything is open.
You came 15.
1900.
15 years. She came here at the age of 72, and she even died in this house at the age of 87.
Amazing.
This was the very last home Ellen White ever lived in and had, okay? And it was the best home she ever had. If you look at other homes, they're not as pretty as this one. So we're very fortunate to see this house here. Okay? Before coming to live in this house, she was living in Australia. You've been to her house? Sunnyside.
Yeah, Sunnyside.
And she established
In Moronga.
Avondale College there.
Yeah, Avondale.
She established a hospital up there and some churches. And she felt that her work was done, so she decided to come back to the United States. She took a boat from Sydney, Australia to San Francisco. And the boat took 23 days to get here. Would you like to be on a boat for 23 days in the middle of the ocean?
No.
I don't think I would either. 3 days before she got here, she had this dream.
Yeah.
And the Lord told her in this dream, I have a special place prepared for you. And she was wondering, where is this place? She said, well, maybe it's Oakland. I'll start looking in Oakland. She found, why Oakland? Because her husband started a publishing house in Oakland, and she felt that if she lived in Oakland, she would be very close to the publishing house, printed there, and distributed through all the world. That would be a nice strategic place. But she found the houses in Oakland too expensive to rent. You know how much they cost? They cost between $25 and $30 a month to rent a house. Wow. How would you like to rent a house today for $25 or $30 a month? Well, she had 3 secretaries with her, She earned $50 a month, the salary of a ordained, and she said, I don't think I can make it. So her son Willie said, Mom, let's go to St. Helena, let's keep looking for house. They stayed at the sanitarium up the top of the hill, and she met an old friend, a lady by the name of a house at the bottom of this hill that's available. You should go take a look at it, see if you like it. At the age of 72, she walked down the 1.5 miles all the way here to take a look at this house.
Wow.
This house was built in 1885 by a man by the name of Robert Pratt. He was living in the state of Massachusetts, back east, and he heard about gold being discovered in California. So all three brothers decided to come to California to see if they could find gold. They were very lucky. They found gold, and all three brothers become very rich, very wealthy.
Wow.
Mr. Pratt builds his house for a cost of $12,000, which was a fortune back in those days. You know what $12,000 in 1885 is equivalent to today? $25 million.
Wow.
Amazing.
So he paid a lot of money to build this house. It had 74 acres of land also. President of the Central Pacific Railroad in San Francisco, and that's where the money was in those days, in the railroad. Well, he built it for two reasons. Number one, to be a vacation home like this one, to come to every once in a while. Number two, to be a retirement home. When retirement time came, his daughter said, Dad, just sell that house. St. Helena is too far from San Francisco, and we might get lost. Just come live with us. We'll take care of you for the rest of your life. And he said, well, I think that sounds like a good idea. And I know the Filipino families, because I pastored a church that had 25% Filipinos. They have their parents live with them until they die in their home. A lot of the Latin American countries do the same thing. Okay? Here in the United States, they don't do that. They put them in a nursing home. Let them die there. No, we like to keep them around us, right? Well, why would she say that? Remember that dream she had 3 days before she got here? Evidently, she saw this house in her dream, and when she sees it in person, now she recognizes it, and now she wants to buy it. You know, she doesn't want to rent it. She wants to buy it. So she asked the hospital administrator, Mr. J.A. Burton, how much will you sell me this house for? He said, oh, Ellen, for you, we're going to sell you this house very cheap. We're going to sell it to you for the same price we bought it, $8,000. How does that sound to you? Mrs. White says, oh, that sounds terrible. I don't have that kind of money. All I got is $1,000 from a house I sold in Australia. Can we negotiate? Mrs. White was a very good negotiator. So Mr. Burton says, you don't think you'll ever use it? The sanitarium needs 15 of your acres to build a sewer system out over here, which is about 2 blocks away, still there. And up halfway up the hill, there's a garage. When you go up there, there's an auto garage. There was a food factory there. And so we need these 15 acres. If you give us those 15 acres, we'll sell you the house for $5,000. How does that sound to you? Mrs. White says, house came completely furnished. See those 3 pieces of furniture right here? Wow. These are all original furniture from 1885. Mr. Pratt built this house because he furnished it also. The organ was here, although this is not the original one, but there's one very close to it. Does anybody here play organ?
Piano.
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 Piano?
Yeah.
Well, organ's a little different because you have to hold the notes down instead of going up.
Yeah.
But if you like to try, is it you?
Yeah.
You can try playing it. See, it plays by air. It's not electric, so this doesn't play. You have to pump these pedals. Okay.
piano when I was 10.
Oh my goodness. The writings. Ellen White. It's her penmanship.
Wow. Original, huh?
Yeah.
Okay,
Ellen White.
let me show you this painting over here on this wall.
Yeah.
That's an original oil painting of Ellen White.
Wow.
If you see any paintings of Ellen White, usually that's the painting you will see
Yeah.
in books and magazines and
Right, yeah,
publications.
yeah,
Okay,
magazine.
very famous. She's also one of the founders of the Seventh-day Adventist Church,
Yeah.
along with her husband. She wrote 63 books. We have them here. We're missing 10 because we don't have enough room here to put 10 more. She also wrote, her books have been translated into 160 languages around the world,
Wow.
including Tagalog. You speak Tagalog?
Yeah.
Okay. And she also, and Espanol. Okay. And she also wrote 100,000 pages of manuscripts.
Manuscripts.
Did you know this? That in the history of literature, Ellen White is the #1 author in the history of literature.
Amen.
No one else has written as many books as Ellen White. No one has had their books translated in as many languages as Ellen White. And no one has written as many pages as Ellen White. Male or female, religious or secular, she's the #1 author in the history of the United States for non-fictional books, okay?
Yeah.
If we look at fictional books, she's non-fictional, she's #1. It's a fact that very few Adventists even know. So I'm hoping you remember that. Let me show you 2 of her original manuscripts right over here. We might have to take turns or might have to gather around here to be able to see it, okay? The one here on the left, she wrote when she was 20 years old.
Wow.
Look at the handwriting, see how
Yeah.
beautiful it is?
Very beautiful.
Ah,
Original.
yeah, if the other people want to come close here, take a look. Look, see her tomorrow or the next week or something. So she was very protective of Mrs. White. She also ran the business in here, so she was a very important person. Anybody in here 18 years old or between 18 and 24? Well, let me show you Mrs. White's marriage certificate right there. She
Wow.
and James were married August 30th, 1846. She was 18 years old. And he was 24.
18 years old. Credentials.
The picture of this man over here, his name is Pastor Charles T. Everson. When Mrs. White died, this house was sold, and he became the 3rd owner of this house. And he did something wonderful when he bought this house. He drew up a will and said, when I die, I want to donate this house to the Pacific Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists. Okay? So they are the owners. The White estate does not own this house. Does not own this house. It's the Pacific Union. You're familiar with the Pacific Union, right? Yes. Okay. He died in 1955, and we got the house, and we've been given tours ever since. However, Pastor Everson started the custom when you get visitors. He started giving tours of this house in 1930, and everybody that came to visit would write their names on that. And we're keeping that tradition up to this day. So your signature in that book out there will become part of the history of this house, because we keep those books. We have all the signatures from all the visitors since 1930 that you've signed. If you don't sign, they're not going to appear there only because you wish it to sign. You have to sign your name, okay?
Also, these tours would be written in heaven.
Yes. Trees, elm trees.
Oh yeah, elm
So she
trees.
named this place ELMSHAVEN, in Spanish, El Cielito de los Olmos, because elms are árboles de olmos, elm trees. Okay. Okay, let me go to this picture. Did you know that in Ellen White's days, there were both men and women secretaries? Men's secretaries were very popular back then. Today you don't see a men's secretary anywhere.
No.
You all happen to be single. And what happens to single men and single women when they work together for a while? They fall in love and get married.
Oh.
This secretary married that secretary. And this secretary, he was a little smarter. He married Mrs. White's granddaughter.
Oh.
And he became part of the family. Now, Mrs. White was very short, chaparrita. And when she sat in a chair like this, notice her feet would not reach the ground. They would dangle in the air. So she always needed a log or feet in, so her feet wouldn't dangle in the air. Anybody here 5'2" or less? Between 5'2" You're about Mrs. White's height. Let me show you this picture. Different today. See, there's a lot of houses around here today.
Yeah.
And if you notice this picture, this is the picture of Ellen White's house right now. What's different? This tower right here, see?
Oh, yeah.
It's not in the picture. Okay?
Right.
She built this tower 2 years after she built this house. The same year that she builds this tower, she builds this White House here, this 2-story White House. And today, Mrs. White's great-great-granddaughter lives in that house. And she gives tours here every other week. Then my wife and I, we give tours every week when they rest for a week, and then we rest for a week. We rest here because the only reason I took so long to get here, I was in the back. We are doing some little yard work and stuff, and I didn't hear different hospitals and educational institutions that the Lord showed Mrs. White to build. St. Helena Hospital, right here. It's the oldest Seventh-day Adventist hospital in the world. Okay? There's none other that's older. Glendale Adventist Medical Center in North Los Angeles. It was a hotel. She tore it down and converted it to a hospital. San Diego was also a hotel to a hospital. Loma Linda was see that hotel? Beautiful hotel. And it was torn down and they built a hospital.
Loma Linda.
Underneath is what it looks like today. Pacific Union College. This is the original picture. It was torn down now and now it looks more modern like this. And that one up there is the White Memorial Hospital in East Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Mrs. White never got to see that hospital because she died the same year they started. Follow me here to the foyer. They were also imported from France in 1885. Mr. Pratt built this house. They're still looking beautiful. The colors, they have not faded after all of these years. Okay.
Almost a century.
The doorknob is the original doorknob. And even the key here is the original key that Mrs. White used to open and close this.
Till now.
Well,
Yeah.
until now we open it. The doorbell here is the original doorbell. Now, Preston, would you like to ring the doorbell for us? I have to open the door here, and there's a handle back there. You have to pull it down, okay? See right there? You have to pull it down hard. There we go. You could hear that through the whole house. You're strong. See, this was not called a living room. We call it that today. But living rooms back then in her time were called parlors. Have you ever heard that word, parlor?
Parlor.
Maybe you go to the beauty parlor. That's when you hear that word parlor, right? Or you go to the tattoo parlor, right? Or you go to my favorite place, the ice cream parlor. Huh? Questions that were anticipated, they would talk about it here. Number 2, she had her devotionals here every morning at 7 and every evening at 7. Would you like to guess how long her devotionals lasted? Anybody?
An hour.
An hour?
3.
Anybody else?
4.
They only lasted 10 minutes.
10
Okay?
minutes.
They were very short. She did not want to bore anybody, you know. One of the secretaries would play the organ, and then Mrs. White would come over here to her chair, her favorite chair, for 2 reasons. Number 1, it was a rocking chair. And number 2, look how low it is to the ground. See? Her feet did not dangle in that chair. So she would read 1 or 2 or 3 texts, and then everybody would come and they would start their day. Here are the 9 books that she wrote while she lived in this house. Let me tell you what they are. The book Education, Ministry of Healing, Gospel Workers, Counsels to Parents, Students, and Teachers, the Acts of the Apostles, Prophets and Kings, and Testimonies to the Church, Volume 7, 8, and 9. They were all written in this house during the 15 years that she lived here. Let me show you a picture of her son, Willie. Okay. Oh, it came off again. Goodness, he was not a Mormon. Okay. This is his first wife. Her name is Mary Kelsey. She was very pretty. She had long hair. She had very light eyes, probably gray eyes. Okay. Together they had 2 girls right here, Ella and Mabel. Okay. And they went to Switzerland as missionaries and tuberculosis and wound up dying about 3-4 years later. So Willie was a widower. He went to Australia with his mother and he became the union president over there. He met this lady, May Lacey, here. They got married. They had 5 children. The first 2 were twins, Henry and Herbert. Okay, so I put kerosene, Mrs. White's original lamp here. And the lamps were hanging from the ceiling. And if you looked in the dining room, there's an original one with the tank in the middle. In 1913, electricity came to this part of town, and Mrs. White was one of the first people to get electricity. She enjoyed electricity for 1.5 years before she died. The house was already built. Look what they did. In 1977, they made a major renovation of this house to modernize it. They tore in the ceiling to hide the wires. They tore inside the walls to hide the wires. And they put these modern switches, flip up and flip down. Unfortunately, when they did this remodeling, they destroyed the original wallpaper. So this wallpaper is not the original, okay? But something very, see? And it's not a flip up or flip down. You turn it. So half a turn to the right, turns the light off. Have a turn to the right, turns the light back on. Still the original switch from 1913, and it's still working. None of you are here lived in 1913, did you? No, I don't think so. For many years. This clock here belonged to him. One day, Mrs. White went to visit him, and she saw this clock, and she said, "Oh, what a pretty clock. I wish I had a clock like this. I like it." When Mr. Uriah Smith died, his wife, the widow, decided, well, since Mrs. White likes this clock so much, I'm going to give it to her. So she gave Mrs. White this clock. This clock was built in 1880. It has never broken down. It is 142 years old, and it's still working. You can come close to the... Okay. After they had their devotionals in the morning there, they would come here to have breakfast. All the secretaries, the gardener, everybody, okay? Mrs. White loved to eat everything that was green, like broccoli. People like broccoli?
Yeah.
How about green beans? How about peas? Spinach? Brussels sprouts?
All green.
Well, she had to have something green for her lunch every day. Her favorite was dandelion greens. Have you ever tried that? The little yellow flowers that grow around there.
Oh yeah, dandelion.
Go white and you blow it in the air. That's her favorite
okay.
one. Mrs. White was a vegetarian in this table ever, okay? With all the studies they've made about vegetarians, they found out that if you are a vegetarian, you're going to live between 7 to 10 years longer of life. And if you are a vegan, vegans don't drink milk or eat cheese or eggs, you're going to live up to 15 years longer. So, if you want to live longer, try being a vegetarian or vegan. Okay? So she promoted being a Adventist church also still promotes being a vegetarian. Okay? But it's not a requirement.
Yeah.
During the 1950s, I think 70-80% of all Adventists were vegetarians. Today, 76% are not vegetarians.
Correct.
So, if you want to live longer, surgeries, I suggest you being a vegetarian. Okay. These chairs are the original chairs.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
The table is not. She talks about having 13 people around this table, and you can't have that. It's too small. We do have 6 more tables, chairs. They're in this buggy room over here. No. I put them in the storage over there, but we have 6 more of these chairs. The dishes here are not original because when Mrs. White died, everybody wanted to buy something that belonged to Mrs. White as a souvenir. And if I were around back in those days, I would want something from her too. We replaced them with the same kind that she had, Blue Willow. They're still available through antique stores. So if you want dishes like her, go to an antique store and ask for Blue Willow dishes. This is where she sat. Remember that picture I showed you?
Yeah.
This is the chair that she was, where her feet were dangling in the air, and she had a block of wood there. Well, Mrs. White was a very modern person. She bought a modern house, modern electricity, and she was very modern because she had an ice box. Take a look over here. See, there were no refrigerators back then, so you had to use an ice box. You put a block of ice in here that weighs 40, 50 pounds, and it would keep us cold. 2 times a week, a man would come around in a horse and buggy selling ice, and she would buy ice from him. Mrs. White was also very modern. You know why? She had a telephone. Take a look. Since when have you ever heard Mrs. White had a telephone? You never hear that. As a matter of fact, I haven't found it in writing in a book either. So how do we know she had a telephone? Have you heard of the telephone book? I got an original telephone directory from 1912.
92.
And her phone number is in here. Would you like to see it?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. She had 2 telephones. Let's see here. So what 2 numbers do you see there?
63 and 65.
5. Yes. 63 rang in this house. 65 rang in that house over there. Just 2 digits. How would you like to dial just 2 digits? Isn't that nice?
Amazing.
Now that you know Mrs. Phone Call, and if she answers, what are you going to do? You don't know? I know what I would do. I would hang up and run away. They got to live in this house here. The men were thrown in that other house over there to go live. She had to have them separate. But their girlfriends lived in this house. So they needed a telephone so that they can call their girlfriends here.
Oh, that's the purpose.
Not much has changed today, has it?
Yeah.
Okay. If you'll come here, to your left will be the sink, where they wash the dishes. And then to the right is the pantry, and I'll tell you a little bit about the pantry in just a minute when you get finished looking at the sink. Okay.
Pantry.
You can come in here. All the way here.
Ivory spoon.
Oh, I'll wait. Ms. White said, I only make lunch 1 time a day. And if you don't like what's in we have for lunch, you're welcome to go downtown and buy your own food. Okay. But if you're hungry for a 3rd meal, which she does not serve a 3rd meal, you're welcome to come to the pantry and find something to eat. There was always cornflakes. Dr. John Harvey Kellogg invented cornflakes.
Yeah.
He was a Seventh-day Adventist doctor, and Ms. White paid for a lot of his medical school to become a doctor. During the summer, Mrs. White and her secretaries would can 3,000 of these jars with fruits and vegetables so that they'll have food for the winter. She also had 4,000 fruit trees. She had apples. Here's some pears. She had fig trees, plum trees, peach trees. Now this is very old. See the lid there, how old that is? One of two things would happen to you if you ate this today. Either you would get poisoned or you would get dead drunk. Which one of the two would you want? Anybody want to try? No?
No, thank you. Oh, this
A little quiz for you ladies. You know what this is?
Orange something. Squeezer.
I get orange and then tweezers all the time, but it's not.
Oh.
Coffee.
Huh?
For potatoes?
Potatoes, there we go.
Oh.
Put a quick potato here and you mash and you get mashed potatoes.
Oh, mashed potato.
I wish I had one of these.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There were no electric stoves back then. There was no gas stoves back then. You had to use wood burning stoves. Leña. And you put the wood here and here, and this would get very hot, and this is where they cooked. However, this stove here is as modern as Mrs. White was modern, because this stove has high heat, medium heat, and low heat. Would you like to see how she did that? Let me show you.
Oh.
Remember there's a fire going on underneath here? If she wanted low heat, you would raise this up.
Okay.
So a very small hole, very small flame, that would be her low heat. If she wanted medium heat, well, she would lift it up here, a bigger hole, a bigger flame, that would be her medium heat. And if she wanted high heat, well, she would lift this one up, a bigger hole, a bigger flame, that would be her high heat. Very simple, but it worked. Now this hot heater, how many of you like to take a nice cold bath?
Cold.
Not a shower, but a bath. Not too many of us. But Mrs. White always had a nice warm bath. How did she do it? Don't tell me she warmed up pots in here and took it over the 100 trips. She had a better way. She had this water line come down from here. You go on the side of the oven, and it went back and forth this way. The water line will go up this other line.
Oh.
That's how she got her warm baths. Isn't that smart?
Smart.
This also served to heat the irons. Have you ever wondered where they get the word, I'm going to do the ironing. I'm going to iron the clothes. It's from these irons. You had to heat them up here.
So cute.
Have you ever heard the expression, I got too many irons in the fire? It's from here. You got several irons in the fire here. Well, you had to warm them up. They were not too hot, or, and you have to be careful. So, you know how you test if an iron is hot enough? You put your 2 fingers in here and touch it. Then you come over here and do the ironing. But what happens to iron after 5 or 10 minutes? It gets cold.
Yeah.
So you have to put it back over here. Another iron that was hot, and you continue doing the ironing. That's why you have to have a lot of irons in the fire. See? If you only have one iron, it would take you all day long to do the ironing. Today we have irons that are electric, controls, steam,
Steam.
and nobody. This is Miss White's iron. Her original iron. The other ones we bought from an antique store, but this is her original one.
Oh, it's so cute.
Not allow any cooking on Friday after sundown or Sabbath in the day. We're missing a friend of yours. Where is she?
Yes, Gloria.
Is she missing a lot?
Gloria.
No. ¿Quieres escuchar? ¿O está escuchando? Okay. No quiero que se pierda. So how did she do it? Well, she always had a nice warm meal every Sabbath, but no cooking. I told you she was very modern. You're not convinced of that yet, are you? Well, she had her own microwave oven for her days, right here. It's called a fireless cooker. And if on Friday afternoon, just before sundown, she would put some vegetables to cook here maybe, okay? This rock, she would put it in the fire to get it nice and hot. It's called a soapstone. It holds the heat about 4 times longer than a regular stone. Here, she might cook some potatoes there. Once it came to a boil, she would put it in here, the rock in between the 2 pots. Okay?
Resourceful.
You would close it and lock it. She would go to bed Friday evening. Sabbath morning, she'd go to church. And when church is over, she'd come back. It was still warm. So she always had a nice, warm Sabbath lunch every Sabbath without having to cook. Is that a good example for us?
Yeah.
Sometimes they would invite her to go to preach at a church an hour away or 2 hours away. And back in those days, they did not have potlucks we have today. So what was she going to do to eat? No potluck. She was very smart. You know what she used to do? She would take this here in a horse and buggy with her. See? Nice and hot. And after church, it was no potluck or nobody would invite her to home. She would stop by a river and have a picnic lunch. See? Very smart. Yeah. Okay, she loved birds. Canaries were her favorite birds. Okay?
Canaries.
So that's why we have them here. Okay. Well, this is called the scullery. Today we call it the mud room, right? This is where they washed the fruits and the vegetables when they came in from the garden. Okay? And the pots and pans were washed here too. Now we're going to go up these stairs to Mrs. White's writing room. They're called the secret staircase. The grandkids give it that name. You know why? Let me tell you what. Front door and knock on the door. Who would answer the door? The secretary, Sarah. And she see these grandkids and ask them, who do you want to see? The kids would say, I want to see Grandma. She would ask them, do you have an appointment? No? Well, you can't see your grandma. No. Go away. They will come back the next day. I want to see Grandma. Oh, Grandma's busy. You can't. Come back another time. They come back the next day. What do you guys want? We want to see Grandma. She's too busy. Stop bothering her. Just go away. They got tired of hearing the same story day after day. They will find a way around you. So they stopped going through the front door. Now they will come through the back door very quietly with the sneaks, not making a sound because they did not want Sarah to hear that they were here. And they would go up these stairs to see their grandma. They even knew which stairs made a creaking sound, and they would jump over that stair so that Sarah would not hear them. It took Sarah about 7-8 weeks. What these rascals were doing, going behind their back and going to see their grandma. That made her quite upset. So we're going to go up the secret staircase. We have kept it that same name all these years. And we're going to go see Mrs. White's writing room. Okay? Exist when Ellen White bought this house. She added, this is a tower that she added 2 years after she bought this house. So she added it from this wall to this wall over here. Okay? And it continues up there to the attic. If you want to get to the attic, you have to go through that door, and there's stairs that goes all the way to the attic. This is where Mrs. White sat. All 9 books that Ellen White wrote were written on that chair. Wow. It was her favorite corner because lots of sunlight would come in, and as we get older, it's harder for us to see. See? Now, this lap board here was on a hinge. It would go up, she would sit down and bring the lapboard down, so she used it as a desk. That is a little heavy, it's a little cumbersome to take with you, and she had lots of places to go, so she had something better. This one right here. This is smaller, made of go to a train and write, or go to somebody's house and write. Isn't that neat? I call that her lapboard. I call this her laptop. And you know laptops were invented recently? No, Mrs. White invented laptops. She was the first one to have a laptop. That picture there is a picture of Mrs. White and her secretary Sarah on a horse and buggy. Every morning around 10 o'clock in the morning, Mrs. White would go around the neighborhood visiting people. If she found a family and were hungry, she would invite them to the house to eat lunch. She always told her secretaries, always make more than enough food because we never know when we're going to have guests. And she was always ready. If the family's clothes were old and raggedy and full of holes in their pants, holes in the pants back then meant you were very poor. Today it's the fashion. If your clothes were old and raggedy, she would give them 7 to 10 yards of material, like you see right here. See? 7 to 10 yards of material was needed to make those big, long dresses that they used to wear back then. Today you don't need that many yards, right? Maybe 2 or 3 yards might be enough to make a dress. And I see you laughing. Why? Because you make a mini skirt, well, maybe half a yard might be enough, right? But if Mrs. White were to see a mini skirt today, I think she would faint or she would have a heart attack. Back then, you would not even want to show your ankles. That was too risky, too risque. One Sabbath morning, Mrs. White walked in here and she fell in there. Watch out, Mrs. You're stepping on Mrs. White. Right there. They took her to the sanitarium and they took some x-rays and they found out she had a broken left hip. She had osteoporosis. She did not know that. I don't think anybody knew what osteoporosis was back then. This bathroom, it made a sharp turn and crack. And that's why she fell down. Some people think, well, she fell down and broke a hip. No, she broke a hip first, and that's why she fell down. Okay. There was nothing the hospital could do for her. There was no technology back then to fix broken hips. Today, they'll put you stainless steel bolts and screws and pins and plates and fix you up, even aspirins.
Ouch.
The only thing the hospital did, they gave her this hospital bed, and Mrs. White spent her last 5.5 months of life in that hospital bed. She died on that hospital bed 5.5 months later. Okay? Her last words were, I know in whom I believe. Yo sé en quien yo he creído. Last words. Her favorite song. Did you know she had a favorite song?
No.
My wife played it for you in the organ.
Oh,
The sweet by and by.
sweet by and by.
In the sweet by and by.
There's a
There
land that
you
is
live
fairer
in the
than
beautiful shore. She wanted to sing. Her lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. That evening, she went to bed very happy, very quiet. During the night, she slipped into a state of a coma and lost all consciousness. Away for 6 days. 6 days without eating, 6 days without drinking, because when you're unconscious, you can't swallow.
Yeah.
Only death is waiting for you. At the end of the 6th day, her breathing pattern started to change. Anybody here in the medical field? Yeah? Her breathing pattern became 1 breath every 2 seconds or so, 3 seconds. Then when your breathing pattern becomes 1 every 5 seconds, 1 every 8 seconds, 1 every 10 seconds. Do they still call it chain stalking? Apnea?
Apnea.
Yeah. Finally, there was no more breath. Her son Willie was here at the head of the bed, Her secretary was at the foot of the bed. They looked at each other in shock. I was wondering what was going through Willie's mind. Oh, my mother died. She's the prophet of the Lord. What was Sarah thinking? Maybe, oh, my boss died. Now I'm unemployed. There's no more work for me. Then Sarah remembered the clock. So she gets up and goes to this clock, and she stops the clock at the time that Mrs. White died. Ms. White died at 3:40 in the afternoon. It says 3:42 because it took her 2 minutes to get over the shock and remember the clock. Never again has that clock been put to run to this day. I'm sure that if I wind it and move that pendulum, it will run, but I'm not going to do that, okay? Mrs. White died July 16, 1915 at 3:40 in the afternoon. It was a Friday afternoon, and Mrs. White rests for the Sabbath. Who else do you know in the Bible died on a Friday afternoon after 3 o'clock and rested for the Sabbath? Jesus. Okay, same day, same time, and they both rest for the Sabbath. Do you think that was a coincidence?
Yeah.
I don't think it was a coincidence. Maybe it was, I don't know. I couldn't say. There were 3 funerals for her. One was in front of this house. You know who came to visit her? 400 people that were non-Adventists. They were the same people that she invited home for lunch. Same people that she gave materials to have their dresses. Her title was the Little White and Black, who was very kind. That's how they called her. Some people didn't know her name, so they called the little white-haired lady dressed in black, was very kind. Everybody around the neighborhood knew who that was. It was Ellen White. There was a second funeral in Richmond, near San Francisco, and they take her to Battle Creek, Michigan. These 2 pictures here.
Michigan.
There's 5,000 people came to see her, and next to her, that one is her burial place, Battle Creek. Why would they take her 2,000 miles way out there when there's a cemetery here in town, only 2 miles away?
The husband was there.
That's right. Her husband was, resurrection comes, I want to be together with my family so we can all rise together. That was her plan. So we honored that wish. Well, Mrs. White also had a favorite color. Did you know that? You know what it was?
Green.
Black.
Pardon?
Black.
Black. She was always dressed in black, but it wasn't black.
Green.
She loved to eat everything that was green, but it wasn't green.
Blue.
Pardon?
Blue.
Blue. She always got a ride every morning to see the blue sky, but it wasn't blue.
Light green.
No, that wasn't violet either. Those are colors of royalty, kings and queens.
Oh
but
yeah,
she was
for
not that.
royalty. Yeah.
Ladies.
Pink?
Pink, there you go.
Yun lang pala.
Girls like pink. Nobody guesses pink. I don't know why. Go inside. Go inside.
Pink.
Go inside.
It's
It's a
pink.
soft pink. Not
Yes,
hot pink.
baby pink.
Baby pink. There
Yeah.
you go.
Pink means baby pink. Amazing.
Here's original. The bathtub is the same bathtub that Mrs. White would take a bath in, her secretary.
Really?
The sink is the original sink.
Let me see. Excuse me.
And even the mirror that's in the wall is the same.
The original bathtub.
Look at herself.
Original sink.
Original. Yes. Wow. Even the toilet is original.
Wow.
Miramos para ponerse la agua caliente.
Wow. God has preserved.
And sometimes the angel would come at 1, 2, or 3 in the morning. And then she would get up to come to the writing room to write whatever the angel showed before she would forget.
Oh my goodness.
And so people in the hospital would see this light in her writing room.
Wow.
And they would ask her about what was she doing up so late with this light. And she'd, oh, because my angel was there with me. On different occasions, people saw angels there. One time they saw an angel looking over her shoulder to see what she was writing. Another time they saw an angel over here, overlooking the windows over there. And so those are reports of angels being in that room. And in her bedroom too. I'm going to show you that in a minute. Yes. Terry's bedroom. All the furniture here is all original. Let's see, who was the people that went to Sunnyside to visit? You?
Yes.
In Australia, okay. I understand that she had some furniture, at least in 1887. It's with a pedal, because you have to use a pedal to make it. It's not electric. And it's a Singer.
Oh, Singer. Original.
Well, you know this rug here? You know what they call these? Rag rugs. You know why they call it rag rugs? Because Mrs. White and her secretaries, they would always sew dresses, and when they would sew, there would be a lot of pieces left over, right? They would call those rags. And Mrs. White would pile them up in a corner room right here, until they got really tall. When it was tall enough, they would cut all these pieces and make these rugs. That way they didn't waste any material. So they're called rag rugs.
Maximize.
James White did not like to see a bunch of rags this high. On one occasion he said, Ellen, can I get rid of these rags? Miss White says, no, James, I'm going to use those to make these rag rugs. James says, but we're going to have visitors tonight. And I don't want them to see this pile of rags up here. It's very embarrassing. Could I get rid of them? No, choose them to make rag rugs. But you're not understanding. People are coming tonight. Aren't you going to be embarrassed by them seeing that? Oh, I don't think I get embarrassed. So he decided to do the following thing. He's going to sing a song. And every time he came into the living room, he's going to sing the song over and over and over until Ellen White got tired of hearing the song and she would get rid of the rags. So, there'll be no rag rugs in heaven. There'll be no rag rugs in heaven. You would look at Mrs. White. Oh, no, not getting rid of it? I'm going to sing some more. There'll be no rag rugs in heaven. There'll be no rag rugs in heaven. He did this day in, day out for a whole happened at the end of the week. What do you think? Did Miss White get rid of the rugs or not? No, you can't change a woman's mind once it's made up, right? No, she won. He lost. Let's go to the next White family. Mrs. White, James White, Willie, and Edson. Mrs. White had 4 children, okay? ¿Se quiere sentar? Puede sentarse aquí en la mitad. Esta sí se puede sentar. Okay? Nomás siento. They were all boys. 2 of them died at an earlier age, okay? So Willie survives and Edson survives. Here's Willie when he's older, and there's Edson when he's older. Next to him is his wife, Emma. For some reason or other, Edson and Emma never had any children. The 3-month-old baby that died, impossible for him to have children. The 16-year-old boy that died, he didn't have any children. And Edson didn't have any children. So all of Mrs. White's descendant comes from one person, that's Willie. He had 2 girls through the first marriage, 5 children through the second marriage, okay? Today there are over 300 descendants of Ellen White, all through Willie, the only one who had children. Now Edson was a good musician. He composed his name, James Edson White, built in Battle Creek, Michigan. Edson left the church for about 15, 20 years. And when he comes back, he asks his mother, Mother, what shall I do now that I want to come back to the Adventist church? She said, go to the blacks of the South here and preach to them the Adventist message. So he builds this boat, calls it the Morning Star, goes up and down the Mississippi River. He has evangelistic meetings on his boat. His wife playing the organ, which is this one. And his members in our church today, because he started the work among them. They were not allowed to read or write. That was against the law. But he was about to change that because now they were free people. So he built a school. And he used these books. We got 3 of them right here. There were many other books, but these are 3 books that have survived. Do you know what the name of that university is? No, close to it. Oakwood. Oakwood University. Have you heard of Oakwood University?
Yes.
A lot of our black students go to Oakwood University. So they wrote a book about him, Mission to Black America, and it shows here that he is the founder of Oakwood University. Okay. Behind you is a typewriter. Some of you, I'm sure, have used that typewriter. Some of you younger ones have never used that. And it looks like a dinosaur, no one. But if you look at the keyboard, it's going to be familiar to you. It's the same keyboard as computers use today. Nothing has changed. Okay? Except these, you have to hit it hard.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's still working.
It's still working.
Some of it's still working.
Yeah.
And if you make a mistake on this, you have to roll the paper out,
Yeah.
with an eraser, erase it, and come back and type the correct letter. So nice in the computer. You backspace and put the right letter in, you know? And if you spell the whole word wrong, the spell check would spell it for you.
Yeah.
That wasn't possible back then. You guys have it made. This is the family tree. James and Ellen White, their 4 children. This is 2 girls through Willie's first marriage and their descendants. The 5 children through the second marriage and their descendants. The lady that lives in that White House, her name is Esther, right there. And her mother is Gladys. Gladys just died about 6 months ago. She was the oldest living relative of Mrs. White. She was 99 years old.
Wow.
Almost 100. So she gave tours here for 23 years. That's her picture in the blue dress there, just left. Her. Mrs. White had about 2,000 visions. They lasted anywhere between 3 minutes to 4 hours. Did you know that when Mrs. White was in a vision, she never breathed?
Yeah. She never breathed.
On one occasion, someone gave her a Bible, put it in her chest. She lifts this Bible, and she puts the Bible in her hand like this. She's looking at a vision up there, and she goes with a finger and points to a Bible text and quotes it. She turns the pages, points to the Bible text, and quotes it. She started preaching. She did that for 30 minutes over and over, never got one wrong. People get on top of chairs and ladders to see what's true, that she was pointing at the right text, and she was pointing at the right. She did it over and over and over. She was 17 years old. She weighed about 90 pounds. She was very skinny. The Bible, we have the original Bible here. We give it to the United States. But here's another Bible, the same size, height, and weight. Weighs 18 pounds. And she holds this Bible with her left hand, with her arms stretched out for 30 minutes, open, and pointing a Bible text. Would you like to try it?
It's heavy.
One hand for him.
Would you like to try it? 2 hands.
Excuse me.
That's heavy.
Maybe somebody else would like to try it.
My wife wants to try.
You want to try it? You have to use 2 hands, I think.
Yeah, 2 hands. It's very heavy.
100.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else wants to try?
Very heavy.
Want to try?
Just a second.
I'm on live. That's the Bible.
Whoa.
It's heavy.
Around more than 10 kilos.
9 kilos.
Oh, yeah.
Stretch out.
I know. This is what you're the water.
Yeah.
30 minutes.
Wow.
It was
A miracle.
Anybody else?
No, I'm good. Let me try.
I have a right-handed. You know.
It's heavy.
About 9
Yeah.
kilos.
It's heavy.
I had a Russian weightlifter here from the Olympics, and he happened to be a Seventh-day Adventist, and he brought his weightlifting friends here with him. And he said, I brought my friends from Russia now during the Olympics, and I would like to see Mrs. White's Bible. I would like to hold it, see if I can break her record for 30 minutes. Okay, you're welcome. So I took my cell phone out. I said, wait until I get ready. Boom, okay, I'm going to record you. And he held the Bible out. Guess how long he lasted?
10 minutes.
1 minute and 42 seconds.
Wow.
He couldn't hold anymore. By the end of the minute and a half, his face was very red, his arm was shaking, and he went down. No one has been able to do it. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's very
Only
impossible.
The Lord kept her arms up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go this way.
So this is Ellen G. White's family. They're that.
Mrs. White's books to see what names she gave Jesus in her books.
Oh.
They're all listed in here in alphabetical order. You know how many names Mrs. White gave Jesus? 837 names. You know how many names the Bible gives Jesus? 159. Ellen White gave him 837.
Wow.
Like the Lord of Angels, the all-powerful friend, Alpha and Omega, the finisher of our faith, the author of truth, the babe of Bethlehem, the best friend, the child of Nazareth, the commander of the heavens, the deliverer, the good shepherd, all the way to the young Galilean. 837 names.
837 names.
This painting here was a painting that the Kellogg's family had in their home. The ones that invented cornflakes.
Now
She
Kellogg's.
visited one time, and she said, of all the paintings I've seen of Jesus, that's the one that resembles him the most, of whom I saw in a vision.
Wow.
And then Miss White saw Jesus in a vision, and it looks a lot like that painting, more than any other that she's ever seen. What do you think?
Amazing.
You gonna go to that room now? Sit on the floor, you can sit on the floor, that's fine, okay? I'll extend this out a little bit here, there'll be more room,
Ivory,
okay?
for real?
I know it's fine. Thank you.
I'll enjoy.
Okay. Well, guess what room this is?
Ellen G. White's room?
Ellen White bedroom, okay? She slept in this bed for 15 years, except the last 5.5 months that she slept in the hospital bed, okay? This bed was already here when she bought the house, because it was completely furnished. All the furniture here is all original from 1885. Nothing in here has changed. It's exactly same furniture in the exact same place that she had it when she lived here. Here's the third Bible that we have in this house that belongs to Ellen White. She would read it every morning and every evening. She would sit in this chair, okay? Another chair there, Rob. Notice the color of the fabric?
Oh, yeah.
Pink. Why?
Pink, it's her favorite color.
My favorite color. See the display case here that looks like flowers?
Yeah.
Those are not flowers.
It's feathers?
Bird feathers, yes.
Yeah, feathers.
Made to look like flowers.
Wow.
That was a going away present from the church members in Australia.
Oh.
When she got on the boat to come to San Francisco. Like all good parents, they have pictures of their children.
Oh.
Edson, Willie, This is Pastor S.N. Haskell, okay? He gave the funeral service for Mrs. White. There's her husband, Ms. White's husband.
Yeah.
James.
James.
And behind you on that wall, Mrs. White is standing up, and her twin sister is sitting down.
Yeah.
Did you know she had a twin sister? They
No,
were
just
fraternal
now.
Twins, so they did not look alike. Okay, they were not identical twins. They were
fraternal.
fraternal twins.
Yeah.
Okay. Her name was Elizabeth. Sadly enough, she never accepted the Seventh-day Adventist message.
Oh,
In 1844, when Jesus did not come, she got very
disappointed.
disappointed
Yeah.
and went back to the Methodist church that her parents used to attend. Now, this room here is very special, not only because of Mrs. White's room, but an angel would come here to give Mrs. White some messages in the evening.
Oh my goodness, goosebumps.
She says it was always the same angel, but she never asked him his name, so she never knew what his name was. So she would talk about this. Sometimes an angel would come here at 2 or 3 in the morning, give her a message, she'd get up, go to her writing room, and start writing before she would forget what the message was. But the message had to be in her own words, because sometimes all she saw was pictures, scenery. On one occasion, the light in here was so bright, so intense, that it lit several blocks that way,
Really?
lit up this whole mountain back here, and the employees of the hospital saw this light, and they thought the house was on fire. So they called the fire department. They come, and they don't find a fire. So they asked Mrs. White, why was there such a bright light in here? They called the fire department. Oh, there was no fire, she says. It was the angels that came to visit me. So this time it was not just one angel, there were many angels
Wow.
that were in his room. And then she decided to write about it, so she wrote on this book.
Testimonies for the
Testimonies to the
church.
Church, volume number 9, and it's page 65 and 66. Part of 65, part of 66. Would you like me to read you what she had to say about this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, please.
Put my glasses on. I can see well far away, but close up I need my glasses. There's my mask on. Okay, here we go. Pastor Haskell was visiting here with his wife that day. She said, on the afternoon of March 2nd, 1907, I spent in council with brother and sister Haskell discussing the work in Oakland. Him, right there, he and his wife. After our visit, I was very tired and I went to bed early because I was suffering from rheumatism on my left side. I could get no rest because of the pain. At last, I fell asleep. About 9:30, I became aware that my body was free from pain. By a miracle, the pain was gone. Then the room was filled with a light, the most beautiful, soft azure light, and I seemed to be in the arms of heavenly beings. This peculiar light I've experienced in the past, in times of special blessing, but this time it was more distinct, more impressive, and I felt such peace that words cannot express it. I raised myself into a sitting posture, so now she sits up against the headboard, and I saw that I was surrounded by bright cloud, white as snow. The edges were tinged with a deep pink, so her favorite color appears in the clouds over here. The softest, sweetest music was filling the air, and I recognized the music as the singing of the angels. Can you imagine angels surrounding his bed, singing from his wife? Would you like to have angels sing to you when you go to bed?
Sure.
Look what happens next. Then a voice spoke to me, saying, "Fear not, I am your Savior." Who else is here now? Jesus is right here, along with the angels. He identified himself, right? "Fear not, I am your Savior. Holy angels are all about you. Then she starts having a conversation with him. Then this is heaven, I said. And now I can be at rest. I shall have no more messages to give. Everything will be easy, and I shall enjoy peace and rest. Is this indeed heaven? Am I one of God's little children? Shall I always have this peace? Why would she think she's in heaven? Not too hard to guess. Angels are singing to her. Jesus talking to her. She probably thought, maybe I died in my sleep. Here's the resurrection. I must be in heaven. Then the voice replied and said, your work is not yet done. What a disappointment. She's not in heaven, and the Lord has more work for her to do. Then someone passed by my door. Pastor Haskell, maybe he had to go to the bathroom or something. And I wonder if that person saw the light. After a time, the light passed away, but the peace remained. And that's the way she ends it. Isn't that beautiful? You know, it's one thing to study about Ellen White, one thing to read her books, it's one thing to listen to sermons about Ellen White, but it's something very different to come here on this tour and see that she was a real person. You can see the works that she did by the books that she wrote. You can see how she blessed the neighbors, feeding them, giving them clothes, visiting them. You can see all these wonderful things that she did. And it's very special when we come here. And you're standing in the same room where angels were here, in this room, and the presence of Jesus was here too.
Amen.
You getting goosebumps too, like I am?
Yeah. Almost home.
And you know, ever since Ellen White died here, there's been a peace that lingers around this place, a peace and a quietness. People come from outside just to sit here around and just experience this peace. They have never left.
Because of her influence,
Influence, yes.
Christian influence.
Well, I keep thinking of the words Jesus told her, your work is not yet done. What was Mrs. White's work? Basically two. One was to write the books, right? Number two was to preach the Adventist message and the second coming of Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, did Jesus come in her lifetime? No. Did Mrs. White finish the work? No, she died. Whose work is it now?
Us.
Our work, yes. We have to let people know about the love of Jesus so that they can be saved in the kingdom of heaven, right? So we all have a lot of work to do. Person, are you the youngest one here?
Oh, yeah.
You're the oldest? Maybe me? Now I have a word of prayer with you. Let's pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your goodness and your kindness. We want to thank you because you have given us the privilege to come here to Ellen White's house so that we can better see her life. Lord, I pray that we have received the blessing here as we've toured her house. I pray, Lord, that the peace that she felt that night, that you grant us that peace in our lives. I also pray, Lord, that the angels that were here accompany these good families here on their journeys, their travels, and wherever they go. Please take care of them. So we pray, Lord, that you open the windows of heaven and pour upon us your blessings. These things we ask in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Well, we've come to the end of our tour. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to give you a brochure, one per family. But we're all going to give you a book of Ellen White.